Today's story takes place in Hong Kong. Off the southwestern coast of Hong Kong Island lies a small island called Ap Lei Chau, covering an area of just 1.3 square kilometers. Despite its tiny size, it is home to around 90,000 residents, making it the most densely populated island in the world. In Cantonese, Ap Lei Chau means duck's tongue because the island is long and narrow, resembling the shape of a duck's tongue. And this is where today's story begins. The main character of our story is 25-year-old Ui Yuk, an accountant. She was outgoing, sociable, and had many friends. Out of curiosity, she once took an online fortune-telling test about her love life, which predicted that she would enjoy great romantic luck. However, a fortune master later warned her that she needed to be cautious and exercise self-restraint. Otherwise, he said, her good fortune could turn into disaster. Shockingly, that warning would eventually come true. So, what exactly happened to her? To find out, let's turn the clock back to October 27, 2010. It was Wednesday, October 27, 2010. At around 8:30 that morning, several fishermen arrived at the shoreline of Ap Lei Chau for a relaxing day of fishing. Under the bright sunshine, a gentle sea breeze swept across the beach while the ocean sparkled beautifully in the morning light. But in stark contrast to the peaceful scenery, near the shoreline by Nam Nai Road, the fishermen noticed a strange object floating in the water. Curious, they put down their fishing rods and walked closer to investigate. What they discovered left them horrified. Floating with the tide was the body of a half-naked woman. After recovering from the initial shock, they immediately called the police. Police officers quickly arrived at the scene and recovered the victim's body from the water. The victim was a young woman, approximately 1.6 meters tall and around 25 years old. She was found floating face down, with her back exposed above the surface. She was wearing a gray top but had no clothing on her lower body. There were injuries on her neck and hands, but they were relatively minor. Investigators believe these wounds were most likely caused by her body striking rocks as it drifted in the sea. Later that evening, news of the case was broadcast across local media. The following day, several people came forward to help identify the victim. Police soon confirmed that she was 25-year-old Ui Yuk. The day before her body was discovered, Ui Yuk's parents had received a phone call from one of her co-workers asking why she had not shown up for work. Confused, they explained that their daughter had not come home the previous night, although she had called to let them know she would not be staying at home. Throughout the day, her parents repeatedly tried to contact her, but every call went unanswered. That evening, while watching the news on television, they were horrified to see footage of a young woman's body found near Ap Lei Chau. The victim looked strikingly similar to their daughter. At that moment, they feared the worst. Since the body had only recently been recovered, her face was only slightly swollen and disfigured. Combined with the distinctive smallpox vaccination scar on her upper arm, her parents were certain that the victim was indeed their daughter. According to the investigation, Ui Yuk was born in 1985 in Huizhou, Guangdong Province. At the age of 12, she moved to Hong Kong with her family. She was the eldest of 5 siblings, and all 7 family members lived together in Kwai Shing East Village, Kwai Chung. After graduating with a diploma in tourism from the Hong Kong Institute of Vocational Education, Yu changed jobs several times over the next 3 years. She worked as a bakery apprentice, an administrative assistant at a car dealership, and held several other positions. Before her death, she was employed as an accountant at a company in Shenzhen and was planning to leave for a new job in the near future. Ui Yuk was an attractive young woman who had no shortage of admirers. However, none of her relationships lasted very long. Most of her boyfriends were co-workers she met through work, and the relationships typically ended after only a few months. According to her close friend, Jenny, Yu naturally drew people's attention wherever she went, and many men were captivated by her. Despite this, she had one particular dream, to marry a foreigner and eventually settle overseas. Because of that, she paid special attention to foreign men and was always hoping to meet the right one. She frequently visited Lan Kwai Fong, Hong Kong's famous nightlife district filled with bars and clubs. There, she continued searching for the man she believed could change her future. In February 2010, you met a German coworker named Thomas at her company. The two quickly fell in love. After only 2 months of dating, she introduced him to her parents and openly shared their relationship on social media. She even wrote, "I love you," in German on her personal page as a public declaration of her feelings. Thomas promised that one day he would take her to Germany, where they could build a life together. But their happiness did not last. Soon afterward, Thomas was transferred to Beijing for work, and the relationship gradually came to an end. Yu's dream of moving abroad, which had once seemed within reach, suddenly fell apart. Heartbroken and devastated, she sought advice from a fortune teller, hoping to find some guidance. The fortune teller told her that she possessed exceptionally strong romantic luck but warned that she needed to be more cautious and disciplined in her relationships. If she continued living recklessly, he said, she could lose everything, or even suffer an untimely death. Yu took the warning seriously and began changing her lifestyle. In the past, she often went drinking with male friends late into the night and allowed them to take her home afterward. After visiting the fortune teller, she stopped relying on others. Instead, she went out drinking alone and always took a taxi home by herself. Sadly, even those changes were not enough to save her. According to Yuk's parents, on the afternoon of October 26, after finishing work, she returned home as usual. She spent some time chatting with friends online before suddenly leaving the house in a hurry without saying much. Not long afterward, she called her parents to let them know that she was going to Lan Kwai Fong for drinks with friends and told them not to worry. They never imagined that the next time they saw their daughter, she would be gone forever. Devastated by the loss, her parents provided police with several important leads. Although Yu had previously broken up with her German boyfriend, Thomas, he had returned to Hong Kong in July that year, and the two had rekindled their relationship. Even after Thomas returned to Beijing for work, Yu continued to stay in touch with him. She frequently made expensive international phone calls and had even complained to her parents about her unusually high phone bills. Despite that, everything she said suggested that she was still optimistic about the future. Investigators therefore ruled out the possibility that she had intentionally taken her own life before leaving home. When Yu left the house, she was wearing a loose-fitting top and a pair of skinny jeans. However, when her body was recovered, the jeans were missing. Investigators found this particularly suspicious because, under normal circumstances, a loose shirt would have been far more likely to be washed away by the sea than a pair of tight-fitting jeans. Yu lived in Kwai Chung. Traveling home from Lan Kwai Fong would have required her to head north. However, her body was discovered in Ap Lei Chau, approximately 10 kilometers south of Lan Kwai Fong by road. The location where she was found made little sense if she had simply been returning home. According to her close friend Jenny, Yu also had an ex-boyfriend named Fai, who worked as the manager of a convenience store. During the investigation, police learned from Fai's current girlfriend that he had been scheduled to work the night shift on both October 25 and October 26. Officers confirmed that he had indeed been away from home on both nights, meaning he could not immediately be ruled out as a suspect. His girlfriend also revealed that he had recently been acting strangely, appearing distracted and emotionally distant. Police immediately summoned Fai for questioning. He admitted that he still had feelings for Yu. After examining his phone records, investigators discovered that he had contacted her on the evenings of both October 25 and October 26. On the first night, Yu never showed up at their planned meeting. On the second night, he was once again unable to meet her, so he went out with friends and stayed with them until the following morning. His friends confirmed his account, providing him with an alibi. With Fai cleared of suspicion, investigators shifted their attention to Yu's German boyfriend, Thomas. As Yu's parents had previously told police, she and Thomas had broken up during the 2010 FIFA World Cup. After the tournament ended, Thomas returned to Hong Kong in August, and the couple got back together. However, he was later transferred back to Beijing for work, leaving you alone in Hong Kong. Even so, she remained deeply devoted to him. She spared no expense on international phone calls and even saved money so she could fly to Beijing to visit him. However, investigators soon confirmed that Thomas was not in Hong Kong on the day of the murder, eliminating him as a suspect. Police also searched Yu's home and collected her personal belongings, including her computer, for forensic examination. Acting on the available evidence, they questioned nearly 50 people within just 2 days, most of them men who had known or interacted with the victim. One former restaurant coworker was shocked and saddened by the news of Yu's death. He admitted that he had developed feelings for her while they worked together and had even tried to pursue a relationship with her, but she had turned him down. Although they had worked together for only 3 months before she left the job, he remembered Yu as a cheerful, friendly, and outgoing person who was well-liked by everyone at the restaurant. 3 days after the murder, the official autopsy report was released. The victim's limbs had become stiff with rigor mortis, foam was present around her mouth, and her lungs were severely swollen and filled with water. These findings indicated that she was still breathing after entering the water. Tiny hemorrhages were also found on her eyelids, a classic sign that she had been strangled while still alive. This meant that Yu Yuk's heart was still beating when she was thrown into the sea. She ultimately died from drowning rather than strangulation. The medical examiner estimated that her time of death was between 7 o'clock and 8 a.m., roughly 1 hour before her body was discovered by the fishermen. Police deployed divers to search the waters around AP Lei Chau for Yu's personal belongings, but nothing was recovered. Investigators began to suspect that she had been murdered elsewhere and that her body had later been dumped into the sea near AP Lei Chau. Among the nearly 50 people questioned during the investigation, one man quickly caught the detectives' attention. His name was Wan Kin Tung. He was 43 years old, stood about 1.77 meters tall, and had a strong, muscular build. Earlier in life, Wan had successfully passed the police academy entrance examination and became a patrol officer. Everyone believed he had a promising career ahead of him. However, during his 7th year on the force, his career came crashing down. According to one account, he attempted to sexually assault a fellow officer's girlfriend. Another source claimed that he had been arrested for secretly taking nude photographs and using them for blackmail. Regardless of the exact circumstances, Wan was dismissed from the police force and sentenced to 10 months in prison. After serving his sentence, his criminal record made it nearly impossible to find stable employment. Left with few options, he became a taxi driver. At the time, driving a taxi in Hong Kong was a respectable job, earning around 10,000 Hong Kong dollars per month. But Wan was never satisfied. He was caught driving while his license was suspended on 2 separate occasions. To increase his income, Wan also began offering rides through an app-based taxi service, similar to modern ride-hailing platforms. Yu Yuk happened to be one of his regular customers. The reason police became suspicious of Wan was simple: the last phone call Yu ever made was to him. Phone records revealed that between October 26 and October 28, Wan had called or texted Yu a total of 4 times. Investigators then reviewed surveillance footage from the area near the Nam Nai Road refuse collection point, close to where Yu's body had been discovered. The cameras captured a taxi entering the area. After checking the vehicle's license plate, police confirmed that the driver was none other than Wan Kin Tung. Police summoned Wan Kin Tung to the station for questioning. During the interview, he appeared deeply emotional. He broke down in tears and said that he had been unable to contact Yu Yuk for the past few days and had been extremely worried about her. He claimed that he never imagined he would never have the chance to see her again. When detectives asked where he had been on the night of October 26, Wan stated that he had been picking up passengers near Aberdeen. However, this answer only increased the investigators' suspicions. Aberdeen and AP Lei Chau are located directly across a narrow channel from one another, meaning Wan could easily have traveled between the 2 locations. From the police's perspective, he certainly had the opportunity to commit the crime. Perhaps realizing that his statement had placed him under suspicion, Wan quickly changed his story. He claimed that Yu had called him that night to say she no longer needed a ride. But instead of clearing his name, the explanation only made him appear even more suspicious. Police then searched Juan's taxi and made a critical discovery. Inside the vehicle, they found traces of blood. Juan insisted that he transported dozens of passengers every day and argued that the blood could have belonged to any one of them. Investigators also discovered a small fiber in the trunk that appeared to have come from the jacket the victim had been wearing. However, because the jacket itself had never been recovered, they could not immediately confirm its origin. As the investigation continued, police learned that earlier that month you had gone shopping with a friend. During the trip, her friend had admired a particular jacket but decided not to buy it. You, however, purchased it instead. Investigators contacted the manufacturer and obtained an identical jacket for forensic comparison. Laboratory testing revealed that the fibers from the sample jacket matched the fiber recovered from the trunk of Juan's taxi. DNA analysis also confirmed that the blood found inside the vehicle belonged to Yuk. Combined with surveillance footage placing Juan's taxi near the Nam Nai Road refuse collection point, investigators finally had enough evidence to arrest him. 5 days after the murder, police located Juan Kin Tung at a tea restaurant in Kowloon. He was handcuffed, his head covered, and escorted back to the police station. Faced with the overwhelming evidence, Juan could no longer deny his involvement. He confessed to the crime and gave investigators a full account of what had happened. As it turned out, despite the 18-year age difference between them, the taxi driver and Yuk had become connected by a strange twist of fate. Their first meeting had taken place one evening in November 2009, about a year before the murder. That night, Yu had been drinking in Lan Kwai Fong before hailing a taxi to go home, just as she often did. By coincidence, or perhaps by fate, the driver who picked her up was Juan Kin Tung. Yu sat in the front passenger seat. She was dressed in a revealing outfit, and the scent of perfume mixed with alcohol lingered around her. Juan found himself unable to take his eyes off her striking beauty and attractive figure. From that moment on, he became completely infatuated with her. Yuk had an outgoing and friendly personality. As soon as she got into the taxi, she struck up a lively conversation with Juan Kin Tung. She told him that she often spent her evenings drinking in Lan Kwai Fong and almost always needed a taxi to take her home in the early hours of the morning. Hearing this, Juan volunteered to become her regular driver. To his surprise, Yu happily agreed. The two exchanged contact information, and over the next 3 months, Juan effectively became her personal taxi driver. As they spent more time together, they grew increasingly close. At first, Yu jokingly asked whether he could give her a 30% discount on her taxi fares. To her surprise, Juan agreed without hesitation. In February 2010, the two were seen together for the first time not as a driver and his passenger, but as a couple on a date. Juan later admitted that he had fallen in love with Yu the moment he first saw her. From then on, he began driving her to and from work free of charge. Whenever they went out together, he insisted on paying for meals and would occasionally buy her gifts. Although he was far from wealthy, he spared no expense when it came to Yu. Whenever he ran out of money, he simply borrowed from his friends. Coincidentally, February was also the month when Yu met her German boyfriend, Thomas. From that point on, she began seeing both men at the same time. Juan was fully aware that Yu already had a boyfriend. He understood that he was only a taxi driver with limited income and few social connections, and that he could never compete with her official boyfriend. Then, during the 2010 FIFA World Cup, Yu asked Juan to lend her 10,000 Hong Kong dollars, claiming she needed the money to buy household appliances. Juan agreed, but in return he made a request: he wanted to spend private time with her once every week. To his delight, Yu accepted. Overjoyed, Juan immediately transferred the money into her bank account. According to Juan's confession, their relationship soon became increasingly intimate. They regularly drove to secluded locations, including Mounting Tung, Clearwater Bay, Lung Kwu Tan, and Ha Wan, where they would spend time alone together. They even created a code word, mailbox, to secretly refer to these meetings in the taxi. After each encounter, Juan would usually give you either 500 Hong Kong dollars or 1,000 Hong Kong dollars in cash. This ambiguous and secretive relationship continued for about 3 months. During that time, you repeatedly borrowed money from Juan, each time giving him a different reason for needing it. As time went on, Juan Kin Tung became increasingly consumed by the affair. The deeper he fell in love with Yu Yuk, the more money he spent on her. He even convinced himself that one day she would leave her German boyfriend and choose him instead. In reality, however, Yu was quietly saving the money to prepare for her future life in Germany. Time passed, and on October 26, Yu once again invited Juan to send a letter, their private code for meeting in secret. That evening, after picking her up from Lan Kwai Fong, Juan drove to Ha Wan in Lung Kwo Tan and parked near the entrance to a cemetery in Tai Kong Hau village. The area was isolated and peaceful, with no one else around. Believing they had found a secluded spot, they began their intimate encounter. Unexpectedly, the quiet location was not as deserted as they had thought. A passing vehicle suddenly approached, startling them. They immediately stopped and remained inside the taxi, talking while hurriedly trying to compose themselves before getting dressed again. During the conversation, Yu casually mentioned that her boyfriend, Thomas, would be returning to Hong Kong on November 1st. Smiling with excitement, she spoke enthusiastically about the future that awaited her, seemingly unaware of how deeply her words were affecting Juan. Already frustrated by the interruption, Juan now had to face the reality that Yu would soon be leaving Hong Kong. Jealousy and resentment began to overwhelm him. But the worst was yet to come. Yu then told him that this would be the last time they would ever be together. She explained that she had to end their relationship because she did not want Thomas to discover her affair. However, she still had outstanding bank debts that she also wanted to keep hidden from him. Before ending things for good, she asked Juan to lend her another 10,000 Hong Kong dollars, describing it as a farewell payment. According to Juan's confession, those words shattered him. He angrily replied, "I've treated you so well. I've gone into debt because of you. How could you do this to me?" The argument quickly escalated into a violent confrontation inside the taxi. During the struggle, while neither of them had fully gotten dressed, Yu struck Juan in the groin with her elbow. The painful blow caused him to completely lose control. Consumed by rage, Juan attacked her. He repeatedly assaulted Yu before wrapping both hands around her neck and strangling her for approximately 2 minutes, continuing until she lost consciousness. Juan Kin Tung panicked, believing he had just killed Yu Yuk. In reality, however, she was still alive. In a state of panic, he threw away Yu's underwear, skinny jeans, and blue canvas shoes into the bushes along the roadside. He then lifted her unconscious body, placed it inside the trunk of his taxi, and drove toward the shoreline near AP Lei Chau. According to his confession, he arrived at around 9 p.m. However, there were still people nearby fishing and filming videos, making it too risky to dispose of the body. He remained in the area for hours, waiting until approximately 2:30 a.m., when the shoreline had finally become deserted. Only then did he throw Yu into the sea. One chilling detail emerged from the forensic investigation. If Juan's timeline was accurate, Yu was still alive when she entered the water. She regained consciousness after being thrown into the sea and struggled for several hours before ultimately drowning. After disposing of the body, Juan relied on the investigative knowledge he had gained during his years as a police officer to mislead detectives. He deliberately called and texted Yu several times, asking where she was, in an attempt to create the impression that he believed she was still alive. Based on his reconstruction of the crime, after parking his taxi, Juan walked along a footpath to a nearby pier and threw Yu's body, along with her light gray handbag, into the sea. The disposal site was only about 100 meters away from where investigators later recovered her discarded clothing. One question puzzled detectives. The cemetery near Tai Kong Hau village in Lung Kwo Tan, where the attack had taken place, was approximately 27 kilometers away from the disposal site at AP Lei Chau, a drive of nearly 40 minutes. Why hadn't one simply abandoned the body near the cemetery instead of transporting it such a long distance? Juan explained that he had been overwhelmed with panic and unable to think clearly. During his years as a patrol officer, he had been stationed near the Aberdeen Marine Police headquarters and was therefore very familiar with the surrounding coastline. He also understood how the Marine Police investigated cases and believed he could gather information through former colleagues if necessary. For those reasons, he chose AP Lei Chau as the location to dispose of the body. On November 2, under Juan's guidance, police returned to the disposal site. As he had described, investigators found Yu's clothing hidden in the roadside bushes. They then spent another 3 hours reconstructing the crime scene. Yu Yuk's parents were devastated when they learned that a suspect had finally been arrested. The moment they saw Juan, they immediately recognized him. "Isn't he the man from that day?" they asked. It turned out that, on the second day after Yu disappeared, Juan had voluntarily called her parents. Introducing himself as both Yu's taxi driver and a friend, he claimed that he was also trying to find her. He even drove them to the morgue in his own taxi so they could identify their daughter's body. At the time, Yu's parents had been deeply touched, believing that this man genuinely cared about their daughter. They had no idea that the very person comforting them was the one responsible for her death. In an interview with reporters, Yu Yuk's parents said they felt terrified whenever they thought about the fact that they had once sat inside the vehicle of their daughter's killer, only inches away from him. To them, Yu had always been a kind, obedient, and devoted daughter who had never caused them any worries. She always took the initiative to care for her younger siblings and help her family. The pain of losing her was unbearable, and they struggled to overcome their grief. While sorting through her sister's belongings, Yu's younger sister broke down in tears and could barely speak. On November 1, the Hong Kong Department of Justice officially charged Wan Kin Tung. Coincidentally, that was also the day Yu Yuk was laid to rest. 6 months after the crime, in April 2012, Wan's trial began at the District Court of Eastern District. He was charged with murder. During the trial, Wan learned a shocking fact: when he threw Yu into the sea, she was still alive. Overwhelmed by regret, he expressed remorse in court and broke down in tears, calling it the greatest regret of his entire life. However, Wan did not plead guilty to murder. Instead, he admitted only to manslaughter. The prosecution argued that Wan did not kill Yu simply because of a moment of anger or emotional outburst. They believed he was fully aware that Yu was still alive when he threw her into the sea and that his actions directly led to her death. Wan strongly denied this accusation. He insisted that he truly believed Yu was already dead after he strangled her. According to him, if he had known she was still breathing, he would never have thrown her into the ocean. Wan's defense lawyer argued that the relationship between Wan and Yu involved complicated financial transactions. Wan had lent her money many times, and the two had maintained an unclear relationship despite Yu already having a boyfriend. Therefore, the lawyer claimed that Yu also played a role in creating the circumstances that led to the tragedy. However, only Wan and Yu knew exactly what happened inside the taxi that night. Since Yu was no longer alive, Wan's testimony was only one side of the story and could never be fully verified. There was always the possibility that he was shaping the story to reduce his own responsibility. After 8 days of deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. Wan Kin Tung was found guilty of murder and sentenced to imprisonment. His fate had been decided. Nearly 3 years after the crime, he finally paid the price for his brutal actions. The rest of Wan's life would be spent behind prison walls. However, few people believed his seemingly reasonable explanation. The main reason was not only that Yu was unable to contradict his statement, but also because of Wan's troubled past. His previous dismissal from the police force due to allegations involving sexual misconduct or secretly taking nude photographs for blackmail had already damaged his reputation. After killing Yu Yuk, he pretended to care about her, contacted her parents, disposed of her body, and attempted to create a false alibi. To many people, his actions showed a disturbing level of cruelty and deception. There were even rumors that Wan Kin Tung frequently picked up passengers in the Lan Kwai Fong area, targeting intoxicated women and taking advantage of them when they were vulnerable. Therefore, many people believe that Juan was far from the innocent person he portrayed himself to be during the trial. From the moment Yuk's body was discovered to the arrest of the murderer, the entire investigation took less than a week. The speed and efficiency of the Hong Kong police investigation received widespread recognition from the public. Senior Inspector Wong Tak Choi, who was in charge of the investigation, stated that the court's verdict accurately reflected the truth of the case and the efforts made by the police. He believed that anyone could see that Wan Kin Tung's statements and explanations lacked credibility. He pointed out that although you may have taken advantage of Wan financially, the two were never a genuine couple and might not even have had an actual romantic relationship. The case began because of a complicated relationship involving money and emotions, and it ultimately ended because of the same reasons. Hopefully, money and love will never again become excuses for people to act recklessly. The case of Yuk came to an end, leaving behind endless pain for her family and a warning for everyone. Wan Kin Tung was forced to pay the price for his crime. Behind prison walls, he would spend the rest of his life facing the consequences of his actions and the burden of his own conscience. As for Yuk, the young woman who dreamed of changing her life and building a better future, she lost her life because of the choices she made. Perhaps if she had been content with the life she already had, valued the sincere feelings of those around her, and resisted the temptations of money and romance, this tragedy might never have happened. This story also serves as a warning to young people who become obsessed with material wealth and are willing to sacrifice themselves in pursuit of a luxurious and unrealistic lifestyle. True happiness cannot come from money or status, but from genuine love, clear judgment, and making wise choices. The case of Yuk remains an unforgettable scar, leaving behind pain, regret, and a valuable lesson for all of us. See you all for the next cases. Please like and subscribe to my channel to support me.